Well, now to a fresh development in the Laura Tingle scandal that's consumed the public broadcaster in recent days. Tingle unleashed on Australians in a bizarre rant at the left-wing Sydney Writers' Festival over the weekend, claiming Australia is a racist country and that Peter Dutton is a dangerous man. Now, days later, Laura Tingle has sought to justify her comments. In a statement released today, Tingle had this to say in response to recent criticism. She said, "I regret that when I was making these observations at the Writers' Festival, the nature of the free-flowing panel discussion means they were not surrounded by every quote substantiating them, which would have been and had been included in what I had said earlier on the ABC. This has created the opportunity for yet another anti-ABC pile-on. This is not helpful to me or to the ABC or to the national debate. I'm proud of my work as a journalist at the ABC. It is based always on solid research and a lifetime of experience reporting on Australian politics. That work is built on and delivered in the framework of the ABC's very high editorial standards." Now, there was a lot more, but you get the idea. The ABC's Director of News, Justin Stevens, well, he's issued a statement too, admitting Tingle's comments would not have met the ABC's editorial standards if they'd been broadcast on the network. Here's what he had to say. "Although the remarks were controversial and not made in her work capacity, the ABC and its employees have unique obligations in the Australian media. Laura has been reminded of their application at external events as well as in her work, and I have counselled her over the remarks." Joining me now is Sophie Elsworth, media reporter for The Australian. Sophie, thanks for joining me. What do you make of Tingle's justification?
Well, it's a 1,300-word explanation here, James, but this is really quite extraordinary that after days of asking the ABC repeatedly, including Chair Kim Williams and ABC Managing Director David Anderson, about the words that Laura Tingle uttered at the Sydney Writers' Festival that we covered exclusively in The Australian, we got no response. Instead, the ABC decided to try and go after me and put cold water on my reporting. But this is really quite extraordinary that Justin Stevens has come out this afternoon, said that she has been counselled, because we have the ABC up in front of Senate estimates tomorrow. David Anderson will be grilled on this. But she is a repeat offender, James. She has time and time again shown her partisan ways. And just to show viewers, we've got a clip of Laura Tingle on Insiders recently.
I think what was concerning is for a political leader to come out and say not only is housing the fault of migrants, but you can't get a childcare space, you can't get through the traffic on the roads, you can't get in to see the doctor because of migration. That is lighting this thing up in a really disturbing way, regardless of the arguments about whether there should be more or less migration, regardless of whether his policies make sense. And I would say that they don't make coherent sense in what he's put out in his budget reply. The hot buttons he's pressing there, I think, are very dangerous for our community.
So, James, there's a clear example on the national broadcaster of what Laura Tingle is saying. Now, this is in her work capacity. So I'd really like to see how the ABC view these remarks that she has made, because not only is she their most high-profile journalist on the broadcaster, she is also the staff-elected board member. So if they think this issue is just going to wash away by putting out statements this afternoon, they need to think again. And really, where is Kim Williams on this? He came out and said, if you don't want to be impartial, don't work at the ABC. So why has he gone to ground on this? We have asked him repeatedly to respond to these remarks Laura made. And if she thinks putting out a 1,300-word explanation is going to cut it, I don't think it will, and we'll find out this tomorrow when David Anderson fronts Senate estimates.
Well, I want to ask you about that. What do you expect will happen at Senate estimates? Is this going to be the big issue for him tomorrow?
Absolutely, James, this will be the big issue. This is the sort of conduct that is going on by ABC reporters, may I say, at these leftist writers' festivals. I went and saw Laura Tingle speak at the Melbourne Writers' Festival, where she was very critical of John Howard. She's now come out and attacked Peter Dutton. She said Australia is racist. She's accused Scott Morrison of ideological bastardry on her social media account. So where does this stop? It's all well and good for the ABC to go, oh, we've cancelled her, but how many strikes do you have until there is serious disciplinary action? Because it seems like she's getting quite a few chances here for someone who is extremely senior at the broadcaster and is on the board.
Just before we move on, I wanted to ask you about what seems to me a bit of a disconnect, because Laura Tingle seems to have justified all of her comments, and yet management have said she's been counselled. So, not cancelled, counselled. So, which is it?
Well, I don't think they know, James, because what, do they just sit her in a room and say, look, don't do this again? It's only that I went to this Sydney Writers' Festival on Sunday to find out what these reporters are saying. And they are turning themselves into activists. And if they want to do that, that's absolutely fine, but don't work on the taxpayer dollar. And this is where they are constantly blurring the lines and they're showing their true partisan colours. That's not what taxpayers pay for. Go and work for a commercial broadcaster, go and be a columnist somewhere else, but don't do it on the taxpayer dollar. And this is where they constantly run into trouble. And Kim Williams and David Anderson need to explain themselves, because they can't just run and hide from this. And tomorrow, Mr. Anderson will be asked a lot of tough questions on this.
Yeah, Sophie, whatever you think of Laura Tingle's rant, I tell you, it doesn't get close to the performance of Robert De Niro today outside the New York court where Donald Trump is being tried. Here's just a taste of De Niro's performance, where he warns if Trump becomes president, democracy will perish from the earth.
Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in?
Sophie, have you seen a bigger Karen in all of your life? This must be the most severe case of Trump derangement syndrome I reckon I've seen, and there's been a few.
Well, James, I think that all this does, the more, attacks that they put on Mr. Trump, the more it just helps him at the polls. And I think this will do exactly the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. I don't think it will scare people. I think it will only encourage people to sit up and listen and perhaps go, I think Mr. Trump might be a better candidate.
Indeed. Sophie Elsworth, thanks for your time.